Father Pat joining us today on SSJ at Home. Father Pat, good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for being in here today on this Friday edition of our video. We want to talk a little bit about the year of communion, which began in earnest and in full swing at the beginning of the church year way back in 19 with Saint Benedict, and then we went into Saint Ignatius and on into Saint Therese of Lisieux. And then the pandemic struck in the middle of St. Therese. And then that sort of derailed us, if you would, or at least sidetracked us. Tell us where we are and how we're going to get back on track here in this year of communion.
Yeah, so I just, want to continue to remind everybody kind of where we've been here in this year of communion, right? We did start back back at Advent with Advent and Christmas, looking at Saint Benedict, and really there, right? Our focus was on communion in the family. Our focus was on the rule of Saint Benedict and how that rule could be applied within our family. And then at the end of the Christmas season, and kind of when we got back into ordinary time before Lent started, we were with Saint Ignatius, and there, during that time, we talked about the Ignatian rules for discernment, and talked about the importance of daily prayer, of doing the examine prayer, where we examine our life, our relationship with Jesus Christ, how Jesus Christ is present in our life every day, and how every day we stop to discern what God's will is for us. And so we use the Ignatian rules of discernment. And then in Lent, we moved into looking at Saint Therese of Lisieux, who taught us to love in little ways, right? And how so important that loving in little ways helps us to build community within our family, build community around here. We started the study and a lot finished the study, the 33 days of merciful love that really delved into her little way, and it's where we kind of started to get a little bit off kilter with when there's the pandemic and not have as much of a priority in our discussions and our talk about the year of communion. As we entered into the Easter season, our focus turned to St. Paul, and particularly, just the beautiful theology that St. Paul has about forming community, about how we are really truly the body of Christ, and how in all of his evangelization and all, was just so important that we build community. All of that centered around the Eucharist, and when we receive the Eucharist, coming together as the body of Christ. And then these last couple of months, we've entered into the season here during the summer, talking about Saint Pope John Paul II. And, we started out by talking about his spirituality of communion, where he really presents a spirituality of how important it is for all of us to be in communion. And then we've talked a little bit about his book, Love and Responsibility, and mentioned a couple of times some of his social encyclicals. John Paul II, really understood well how important human dignity is in society, right? That we've got to form those community bonds, respect each other's dignity, reach out to each other in love. That today's individualism and utilitarianism, where we treat friends just as the utility, what we get out of them, right? He totally rejected that and said, no, that it's all about love, and that's our responsibility, is to reach out to each other in love and come together. And then starting September 18th, we'll enter into our last season of this year of communion. September 18th is 40 days before the feast day of our patron saint, Saint Simon and Jude. And so in those last 40 days, we really want to look at communion here at Saint Simon and Jude, how we are building community here at Saint Simon and Jude, to kind of finish up by this year of communion, talking about building communion here at Saint Simon and Jude. I know, throughout this summer that some of our plans, to continue to build communion. When the pandemic hit, we were starting to form small communities, and some were able to meet, some weren't. And, we've tried throughout the summer to continue to build community in ways that we could. And I want to encourage people, particularly now as we're starting to go back to school, and all to continue to work with us to build community. That's so important, right? That we need that sense of community. That's what our Catholic theology is all about. That's what St. Paul taught us. And it's just so important for us to develop those relationships. Our whole faith formation program this year is going to be built off of small communities. And it's really important that we engage with these small communities, that we engage with reaching out to others in our family, our neighbors, to really, truly build community, build those strong, loving relationships. So I want to kind of reset, right, and get us back to talking about the year of communion and how important it is for us to be in communion, not just with Jesus Christ, but with our community.
And briefly, Father Pat, what as parishioners can we do to make certain that we get back on track and we ensure that those small communities continue to thrive?
Well, one is if you're not part of a small community, contact us here at the parish. We'll be publicizing here in late August again the formation of those small communities. We have lots of opportunities for people to just jump in and start in community. We have the That Man Is You program going on. We have there's a rosary prayer group that meets at 5:00 each day to gather together just to pray the rosary. It's just little steps like that. Like I said, our faith formation program this year, if you're involved with the faith formation program, a central part of that will be coming into small communities. So there's lots of ways that as a parishioner here at St. Simon and Jude, you can start getting engaged in those communities. And you can start using, particularly some of those things we talked about with St. Benedict within your family. He talked about how important it is to pray and study and work together. And we can take those principles and apply them, to our own family, gathering each day in prayer, gathering with others in prayer to just build that community.
Father Pat with us today on SSJ at Home. Father, thanks for your time, and we'll talk again early next week.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.